Well, hello, everybody. Here we are on our C3 Church Global C3 TV production. And I'm talking with two of the finest ministers on earth, Chris and Gosia Denham from C3 Yorks. Hi, guys.
Hi. Hello. Hi, Pastor Phil. It's great to be with you.
Well, it's always a complete delight to actually hang out with you two. You're smiling, you're happy, you're never a dull moment with you guys. You're always so affable, looking after all those people in your own church and in the C3 surrounds. I can understand why your church is growing. What do you put it down to?
Probably putting on a good face at the right times from the sounds of things. I wouldn't say it's all smiles, but I think we keep each other going and keep trusting God. So I think that's what it comes down to sometimes. We've got a great team as well. This last year, we've just had the best team around us, just really helping us through everything that's been going on. So that's made a massive difference.
So, Chris, you're from Yorks.
Yeah, Yorkshire.
Yorkshire. And Gosia is from?
Poland.
I knew that, but I wanted you to say it. So how did that happen?
So I came to England for 10 months to do 10 months in Bible college and overstayed my welcome but by 25 years. So, because I met Chris.
Swept her off her feet.
At Bible college?
Yes.
Yeah. Or bridal college, as they call it these days.
So many marriages have come out of Bible college. If not for any other reason, it's just good to go for that.
Yeah, that's it. I think there were about a dozen couples got married in our year. Afterwards.
Fantastic.
So there you go.
Well, I think the stats these days are like top of the list for couples coming together is online, obviously. And then I think it's pubs and church, and I wonder if they've ever considered taking into the data Bible college, because they might find that it's a lot higher than you imagine. Now, you've been married 25 years.
Almost, yeah, just coming up in September. So depending when people are listening to this, we'll either be on the other side of 25 years or this side of 25 years. So, yeah.
Brilliant.
25 years.
Well, congratulations. It's just fantastic. Halfway. Do you know?
Quarter of a century.
Yeah, well, quarter of a century. This same month, Chris and I have been married 50 years.
Wow.
Amazing.
So what's 50 years? Is that so we worked out 25 is silver and 50 is
I think you're getting to gold.
Oh, platinum? I don't feel old enough to be silver. That's all I can say.
Yeah, right. So how long have you been in ministry?
So pretty much from when we got married. So we came into Sheffield, into church, and just got stuck in. And initially we looked after students and young adults. And then for the last 17 years, we looked after the church here in Leeds and planted out to York and then planting out to Harrogate as well. So since C3 Yorks.
So we kind of met in a ministry environment and then never stopped. So it's always been part of our relationship in a sense, working together in the life of a church.
Yeah, when you invite Jesus not just to the wedding, but to the marriage, I think it makes a lot of difference, because a marriage is actually about three people, not just about two. And if he's in the middle of the relationship, I think that it argues for a long-term commitment. Many times I've seen couples where one or other or both drift away from the Lord, and many times that actually causes the fragmenting of their relationship.
Yeah, and it's not like we've done the same thing for 25 years. So Gosia runs a charity, that obviously is very much part of our mission arm of the church. I run sort of the churchy church side of things, so it's like we both have our very different things that we do, but they all come together,
And I think even when we were getting together, I think there was always a sense that for us getting married, it's for a purpose.
Good.
And there was a God purpose into it. So
Brilliant. Yeah, if you understand the purpose of anything, it certainly assists and amplifies the whole meaningfulness of why you are together. Obviously, if you understand why you're together, especially in painful moments, it can help you travel through them so much better. Hey, okay, so now leading with your gift has been a core teaching, core motivation for you. Tell us what exactly that is.
Gosh, that's a big question. And I feel it's one of those ones where I feel totally unqualified to answer it talking to you, because this is kind of like, I think if we know anything, it's come through, what you have spoken and taught us over the years. But I think for us, it comes down to just being aware of who we are, what God has called us to do, what God has put in us to bring. And so I think we've always interpreted that sort of thought and teaching as not getting distracted by, trying to be someone else, trying to do someone else's thing, moving someone else's kind of gifting. You see it all the time, don't you?
You do.
You can social media is just full of great things, great people doing great things. And it's very easy to think, if I could do that, and if I could do that, and if I could do that, then I'll have a great church, but realize that just looking at what God has given us and using that.
Yeah. And I think it's just working out as well, like how do you work? What motivates you? So for me, like we're both probably quite prophetic, I would say, but it works out slightly differently in Chris than it does in me. So Chris probably would work more with he will get a maybe picture or like a sense of something. For me, it works much more with empathy and working out where people are at. So like the empathic pastoral thing actually happens for me through the like prophetic gifting, which is probably a little bit more unusual.
Okay, so this is awesome. We teach this in our college. I've taught on moving in the Spirit and prophesying, and it's always fascinating to hear how that gift, whatever it is, functions in other people. And okay, so what's established is that you guys are moving in the gift of prophecy, and you lead with that gift. So in practical terms, Chris, how does that actually land in your church services or in your board meetings or in your prayer meetings?
I think it's funny because we've obviously just gone through COVID, so we like this kind of big gap. It feels like that we've sort of tried to, where we were getting to pre-COVID is sort of almost where we're trying to get back to now. And I think pre-COVID we'd had some great inspiration from like Pastor John Pierce talking about 5 minutes of power in his service, and you talked yourself about just not allowing the time constraints on services to sort of stop the Holy Spirit moving. I remember those kind of things. And so, going back, we're just about to go back to in-person services. So one of the things we've done is we've taken the opportunity to just reset what that looks like, and rethink what do we actually do with these in-person services that allows the Holy Spirit to move more and gives us more opportunity to move in our gifting, but also looking at our team and looking at the giftings on their life and thinking, how are we releasing that and modeling something to the church. So, we're just trying to create more space. I guess the words of being intentional.
Yep.
Just so I think that's the most important thing. So we're just being intentional about our service plan to give space for the Holy Spirit to move, being intentional in the preparation of that. So actually preparing for it, and being intentional, one of the things, and it's a slightly different area, but we really wanted prayer to be seen across the life of the church. So just making, we just haven't pulled our prayer meetings over the summer just because there's lots of people away. We're going to keep on being intentional about having prayer meetings on Zoom. Being intentional at the end of a meeting and praying. So just
yeah. Well, so when we have gone back in-person meetings, we've made sure that we've got altar calls, especially on a Sunday night, so that even though we dismiss the service and we say we're going to have, the band is going to keep worshiping, and we're going to open up the altar, just about everybody comes forward. And I stood up the back one night, and only about 4 or 5 people actually left. So for me, it showed how hungry people are for the touch of God, to draw near to God, and for the Holy Spirit to move in their lives, just that hunger. And so I think practically allowing for those moments in church life as we come back in person, but we've even done it online through Zoom, just got the guitarist to play and started praying and prophesying through the screen to people. And the presence of the Lord is so powerful in those moments. And I don't think we should let anything limit that moving of the Holy Spirit. On the other side of that, I think that, like what you've said, John Pierce says, 5 minutes of power, I think sometimes people have gone way too long with these areas until people start dribbling out of the meeting and you got 5 people left at 11 o'clock at night. I don't think that's a good way to finish. I think you need to keep it crisp and simple and powerful, and so that it's not languishing. It doesn't become tired, and people are hungry for it because they know it's got order, but it's also extremely powerful and concentrated. So in terms of the gift of empathy that you mentioned, Gosia, how do you actually express that?
I think it's just like, let's say if I'm praying for somebody, I can probably know more or less where they are at, and like spiritually what's going on with them. And then I find that as I pray for them, God will give me specific things to pray for. And it actually really touches their heart because it's very specific, to the situation. But also, I think another part, of this is, I think God is asking me to be a little bit of a gatekeeper. So, for example, Chris would believe in everybody and wants everybody released, and that's his, gifting operation, of releasing people. And I sometimes have to say, oh, just hang on a minute, because I feel that there is some situation, there is something that I can feel. I might not be able to put my finger on it immediately, but there is something. And I think often that can probably save us from maybe releasing the person who might have wrong motives behind what they're doing, or might not be quite ready yet for whatever reason. So I think it's that in operation. And I think it's a little bit like learning to trust that, and to trust that stop in my spirit. I'm like, no, there's something not quite right. Let's just pause on this.
Yeah, that's
so it's
great.
It's like that.
That's discernment. That's a discerning spirit which discerns the difference between angels and demons, a good-spirited person and a bad-spirited person, deception and delusion. We need that gift to be functioning. Some people who are critical think they've got the gift of discernment, but it's not the gift of criticism. It's the gift of understanding with love and empathy whether a thing is right or not. And that's fantastic. How did you discover these gifts? I mean, it's one thing to get an impression. It takes courage, though, to actually say, hey, I'm feeling this. Because often the weakest link in the exercise of spiritual gifts is that faith, that trust on the inside that this is the Lord. And to actually step out is risky. It can be, so how did you get through that, Gosia?
So for me, it started actually in Bible college. And I remember exact moment when I felt almost, I didn't hear it really physically, but almost. I heard my friend crying. And so I was in my room. She was on a different corridor, really far away, so couldn't possibly have heard her crying. But I had this sense, my friend is crying. And it was after, our curfew, because we're supposed to be in our bedrooms by 10:30. We're not allowed to move around.
Good Bible college.
Good Bible college. And I'm thinking, oh gosh. And I'm thinking, I think this is just me. I think, oh, it's just me. I'm just imagining this. and trying to go back to sleep and then just feel it again. And I thought, if I don't go and check this out, I will never know whether this was Holy Spirit or whether it was me. So I go downstairs, knock on the door, her light is, I was thinking she's going to just say, I would wake her up, or she would say that she's fine, but she was crying and she was asking God to send somebody. And so that was probably the first time where I thought, actually, okay, this is how it feels when God speaks to me. And so from then on, when I get this same kind of feeling, I always think, okay, I will never know if this is God or not, unless I actually do something about it or I say it. And, and I found that, I was praying for somebody, felt this thing about them having influence over children. And again, in my head, I'm thinking, is that me? Is that Holy Spirit? But because I experienced the same kind of internal feeling, I think, no, this is Holy Spirit. But unless I say it, we will never know.
That's right.
I just
totally
have to become brave.
Yes. I think a good way to get around that is just not to go for the God has told me, or I have a word from the Lord. I think if we can avoid doing that, then I think it's better to say, like, hey, look, could this be a situation in your life? And if they say why, you say, well, I'm just feeling that this I might be wrong. And if we've got enough capacity to be secure in ourselves, we can just make suggestions and admit that we could be wrong. And I think that stops a goofiness coming into the whole exercise of spiritual gifts. You've got a church where people exercise spiritual gifts, and Chris, I'm sure you've come across one or two interesting situations, flat out flaky situations, and so how have you dealt with that?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. I mean, I have to say, thankfully, we've always tried to create a fairly normal, not weird environment. So actually, we've probably not sort of been in lots and lots of really weird and awkward moments, simply because we haven't almost allowed it through the door. And I think, you do, if you are, anyone who's listening, you're a pastor and you're thinking, I want to lead my church into a greater sense of the Holy Spirit in their meetings and things. I think you do have to be very deliberate about how you do that, so that you don't invite the weird and you don't invite the wonderful. So I think, when it does happen, you almost just have to deal with it with compassion and kindness, don't you? You have to. I remember preaching once, and in the middle of my sermon, I think I'd shared a personal story. This lady just stood up in the middle of the service and started praying for me, and started quoting a psalm, and it was kind of weird and like that, but at the same time, it was like, well, she just really felt called by God to pray for me, so I just let her finish. And then said, thank you. She didn't go on too long, thankfully. I said, thank you very much, and carried on with my preach, and I think in those moments, actually, how we treat people is really important, because I think if we do kind of like, suddenly have the stewards wrestle someone to the ground and, take them out, it's not going to send a good message. But I think establish a good culture for it. It's not weird.
That's awesome. I think having somebody pray for you is okay. We've had some guys who've come in and they're pronouncing judgment, and also that we pick them up and we say, see you later. Anyway.
Yeah, we've had that once.
Yeah.
We had a guy shouting across our entire foyer. I spoke to him politely first, but then he started declaring kind of, all this sort of stuff over the church, and we did march him out. We did actually have to sort of walk him through the funny thing is we had to walk him through all the people out the front doors. He was still shouting all the way, and it was funny because as he left, everyone just sort of turned back to their conversation. It was like the Holy Spirit covered us.
Yeah, all our people started clapping when we showed some order and discipline in the place. Hey, look, Chris and Gosia, it's a delight talking to you. We're going to take a break, and then we're coming back with a second 20-minute conversation with Chris and Gosia Denham from C3 Yorks, North England. See you soon.